I'd like to take a minute to introduce ourselves, both of us, before we start our presentation, just to let you guys know a little bit about ourselves, okay? So my name is Jeffrey. I started this whole thing, and I'm going to be heading off to Queen's University next year for their Bachelor of Commerce program, and I'm excited to have you guys all here. Peja?
Yeah, so my name is Peja. I am an incoming medical sciences student at Western, and I kind of applied everywhere. So got a bit of experience in this type of thing. And yeah, let's get started, shall we?
All right, so as you prepare to apply to university, one of the big things with Ontario universities you're going to hear about is called OUAC. OUAC stands for the Ontario Universities Application Center and is the main portal that everyone uses. It's the main platform that every public university in Ontario uses to handle admissions. Now, there are a few universities not included on OUAC. These are private universities like Niagara Falls University and Redeemer University, which uh, have to be applied to separately. However, for the majority of universities, 99.9% of people will only use OUAC to apply to Ontario universities. It's a website, and we'll talk about it more in a minute. Um, And yeah, I think we should move on to the types of applicants now. So, uh, so if you're an Ontario high school student, if you're registered in an Ontario high school, you'll be considered a 101 applicant or a Group A applicant on their website. If you are not registered in an Ontario high school, you will be considered a 105 applicant. Some notable differences between 101 and 105 are that, potentially for certain programs, 105 or non-Ontario applicants may have a harder time getting into certain programs. Um, this is simply because of the fact that international and non-Ontario applicants face more competition for fewer spots. So if you're in Ontario, consider yourself lucky. And so, assuming that the majority of you are registered Ontario high school families or students, uh, this is how things will work out for you. Uh, so within, Ontario for 101 applicants or Ontario high school applicants, admissions from universities are typically done on something called a rolling basis. A rolling basis is a system of admissions that many universities use, where they admit people in on a rolling basis. Basically, just putting it in layman's terms, they admit people continuously across a longer period of time, rather than admitting everyone at once or within certain officially designated decision rounds. Uh, However, through personal anecdotes and through information gathered by us, oftentimes universities will send out these massive admission rounds still multiple times through the year. Now, the reason for mentioning this rolling basis application system is because it emphasizes the importance to apply early. Because once you apply early, and especially the earlier you apply, uh, the more chances you have to participate in the different rounds of offers that universities will send out. For example, if you apply as early as September of this year, you may be eligible to be considered for an earlier round of admission, while someone who decides to wait until the last minute in January to apply may not be considered for all the rounds of admissions that universities will send out. Um, some universities have their dates posted on when they send out offers. I believe University of Toronto, Art Sciences. facility or faculty releases their admission dates. However, typically and traditionally, most universities keep their offer rounds on a hidden or an internal system. Now, there are a few more competitive programs within Canada that do not offer rolling admissions because of various reasons involving supplementary applications and competition. A few of them are listed on screen, and sometimes they either have partial rolling or completely non-rolling applications where they offer all their admissions at once or within a very specific time frame.
Yeah. So a big point of discussion or of conflict among students is, do grade 11 marks matter? And through our experience, having gone through all this confusion and having been accepted to numerous universities, they do matter for the most part. Now, I'll dive into when they matter specifically and when they matter less. So they matter more for, like Jeffrey said, the early offers of admission. So many universities, they issue early offers from like November to April based on the grade 11 final marks, if the grade 12 marks are not yet available. Some programs, they may offer acceptances solely on grade 11 marks if they're good enough. And it could also be a combination of grade 11 marks and grade 12 midterms or finals, stuff like that. Um, Many schools may offer admission if you have all the required prerequisites in grade 11, and if you're on track to meet the entrance averages. A lot of programs, they post the expected averages, and your grade 11 performance indicates a strong potential as a student. And these early offers, and some of them, they can be very valuable. Some very competitive programs, they still offer early admission. They can be really reassuring in your application journey because, you got a backup to fall behind now. Second point of when grade 11 marks matter is if they are prerequisite subjects not yet taken in grade 12. So if you have a required course for a program that you want to go to, and it's taken in the second semester, schools, they may refer to the grade 11 version until the grade marks are available. And third, competitive programs may use them to assess trends in a student. So programs like health sciences, business, engineering at the top schools, they may not officially base their offers on grade 11 marks, but a strong performance in grade 11 can show consistency and upward trajectory. And this is especially true when grade 12 midterms are not yet available. Now, there are instances in which grade 11 marks matter a bit less, and that's especially important for final round offers. So when we consider admission decisions, early decision is basically any time before May or some time like that. For final round offers, most final offers are based on grade 12 midterms or final marks. By this time, the grade 11 marks are largely irrelevant, unless you're still missing prerequisites, which I wouldn't understand why you would be if you're applying for that program. However, you should definitely still try to keep your grade 11 marks up, both to maintain a mindset for grade 12, to practice for grade 12, I suppose, as well as for the early admissions, like we said earlier. And now I will present a rather detailed timeline regarding the entire process of application, if you will. So from now until the submission of your UAC, your programs that you want to go to, you should research the desired programs, universities. So, I mean, even after you submit your UAC account, you should still research which programs that you want to go to make a final decision later on. But before you submit it, you should definitely research what programs and universities you want to attend, and we'll go a bit more into detail about this later as well on how to choose programs. From late September and onwards, UAC opens for the upcoming academic year. So the best idea to decide when to make an account is probably to wait until your guidance counselor at your school asks you or tells you when it's a good time, because you could make it too early and that would not be considered for the upcoming application cycle yet. And that would mean you need to go through a lot more trouble to make a new account with a different email, stuff like that. From early October, this is just my suggestion. I think from early October and onwards, you should start submitting your UAC because this is beneficial for the early consideration, like Jeffrey mentioned, because this is submitted before grade 12 first semester midterm marks are sent. So if you know you have a strong performance in grade 11 and not as strong in grade 12, this could be beneficial for you. And this would give you consideration for the less competitive programs in the much earlier rounds, helps to reduce stress early on, and also allows time for you to focus on sub apps as well. So for those with stellar grade 11 marks, you can get into some pretty stellar programs as well, like Western Medical Sciences at the start of November, UBC at the start of November as well, UFT Life Sciences early, some pretty good programs. From October to the end, till the end of the school year, or till the end, like the deadlines for the sub apps, you should draft and submit your supplementary applications. And in my experience, it might be advantageous to do some of them earlier, like for Queen's Health Science, for example. We will dive a bit into that later as well. But don't just do them as early as possible. Please do them when you're ready, of course. If it's a video interview, you should evidently practice a lot. If it's a written essay, maybe you want to bring your typing speed up a little bit for certain applications as well. Um, from October to November, there are quite a few fall open houses that the universities provide, as well as seminars. And these could offer exclusive insights regarding applications. It could also give you a good idea of whether or not, oh, I want to go to this university or not. On late November, your semester 1 grade 12 midterms are sent. So this is just another instance in which the universities get evidence for if you're eligible or not. Now, this is a tentative date, but likely January 15th, that is the hard deadline for OUAC submission. So definitely don't wait until this late to submit your programs. But this is the hard deadline to submit if you want to go to university the upcoming fall. Mid-February, the semester 1 final grades are sent. Late April, the semester 2 midterm marks are sent. So this is generally what's considered the end of the marks that are considered for conditional acceptance. So all offers made before then are conditional, before your universities receive your final marks. But most conditional offers are largely achievable if you keep trying throughout the year. And but exceptions always exist. Like for UBC, they tell you to maintain an academic standing of within 2%. For McGill, it just says maintain academic standing. So do not falter. Don't lock out, as they would say. And this is another tentative date, May 29th. All university programs, they should respond to you by then. All the offers, you should have received a decision by this date. And June 2nd, you must accept an offer. Please don't wait until the end. Um, I've seen way too many people online that have said, oh, I didn't accept in time. What do I do? Don't be like them, please. Please accept an offer earlier. And in earlier July, your final marks are sent, and you'll know if your conditional has been maintained.
Okay, so I'm going to take a minute here just to introduce you to the website that we've been talking about this entire time, OAC, the Ontario University's Application Center. which, if you missed it, is the hub or the central place that all publicly registered Ontario universities will handle their applications. Now, uh, recounting what Peja talked about just a minute ago, you really should not be creating your OAC account right now. You should wait until, mid to late September, when the 2025 to 2026 application cycle begins. Because if you make your account before the application cycle begins, then you will have all kinds of technical issues involving OAC, and it's just going to be a headache. So you gotta kind of time your account creation right. Uh, Once you create your account, you input all necessary personal information, documentation. Some universities, like McMaster, will ask for proof of citizenship, proof of residence. Um, you have to, look at all the universities, and then once you get through all of that, all the beginning steps, which don't take too long, you can begin selecting your universities.
Wait, sorry,
Now,
Jeffrey, to
yeah.
interrupt you for a sec for the question in the comments.
Oh,
The question is, did you say some conditional offers require a mark higher than what you got on the conditional offer in the first place? Um, so how conditionals work is that they list a grade that you must maintain for your average. So say, oh, you gotta maintain 80%. You gotta maintain an 80 or above to maintain that offer. Um, yeah.
yeah,
And
I think
for
yeah.
oh yes.
No, I was just gonna say an add-on. I think that
Okay.
the highest conditional offer I've seen to date, it was from Waterloo Engineering, and it said that you had to maintain an average in high school of above 85% by the end in order to maintain your admission, right?
Yeah. From now on, I think we'll answer the questions at the end. We'll save the comments
Yeah.
at the end as well. Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have a like an asking questions section, won't we?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, once you have your OAC account set up, you can begin selecting universities. Pedro, can you just move to the slide with the universities? Um,
Oh,
so
here. Okay.
once you are finished creating your OAC account, you can begin selecting your universities and creating your applications. Okay. Now, there are a few things to note about this process that are very important, okay? First of all, every university in Ontario, the list you can see in front of you, will afford you up to three applications, which means you can only apply to three programs per university. Some universities will have further restrictions on how many applications you can make per faculty. For example, if you apply to U of T, you can only apply to one engineering or one business program. You cannot apply to more than one in that section. Um, on OAC, you are asked to rank your universities by priority. So as you can see on the right of the screen, these are some of my applications, and I had to rank them by one, two, three, four, five, six. Now, for the majority of these applications, your ranking does not matter. The university does not care what you rank them for. However, there are a few programs that do take into consideration what place you put them on your list. Namely, certain programs like U of T Engineering and U of T Waterloo Engineering, and I believe a few other programs at U of T in Ottawa. Um, Now, in terms of costs and programs to apply to, so as I said earlier, each university offers up to three applications per, actual school. Each application will cost you $50, which means that things can get pricey really quick, and you could end up spending up to around $1,000 applying to a sizable amount of university programs within Ontario alone. And outside of Ontario, many universities will also take even higher fees. Like I believe U Alberta's is 125 or so.
Yeah.
So do be prepared to dish out some money for this. However, if you can afford it, we do suggest that you apply to as many as possible. Now, in terms of the application strategy, we recommend applying to something following a similar structure to this. You should start by applying to around three safety programs. These are programs that are known to have relatively low requirements or are relatively non-competitive to gain admission to, and your grade either meets or well exceeds the threshold at which people are admitted. Um, After that, you should choose three or more target programs. These are programs that typically mostly accept people that fall within your grade standard and your extracurriculars match them. These are programs that you have a fair shot of getting into, and you should be comfortable with attending a program in your target range. Um, Finally, you should apply to three or more REACH programs. REACH programs are programs that typically accept a very low number of people or that accept people with grades higher than your average. Um, Oftentimes, these programs are competitive because of something called a supplementary application. A supplementary application is a video interview or an essay or some other form of external application that you have to submit in order to be considered for this program. Reach programs are should be taken, with a grain of salt, and you should not expect to get into them. However, it never hurts applying, and tens of thousands of applicants every year get into programs that they did not expect to get into and end up going to amazing places. So it doesn't hurt to apply. Um, Sorry, it's $50 per program. So, uh, if I applied to, you know, 10 programs in total, it would cost me $500 approximately. Uh, yeah. And as we said, supplementary applications are extra information that help universities filter out applications for some of the more competitive programs out there.
So now we'll talk a little bit about how to actually choose the programs that you want to go to. So first thing that you should understand is to understand what you're actually applying for. So before diving into factors like the school rankings or locations, you need to understand that you're applying for a program at a university and not just the university itself. So for example, life sciences at McMaster is a different experience than life sciences at U of T. You're applying for one singular program that you are heading off to. Now, these names, they may sound similar, but the curriculum, the outcomes, the cultures, they can widely differ. There are information hubs like UInfo, the university websites themselves, and the Ontario University Fair, which I think is a in-person event at specific locations. They provide pretty good information about the programs that you want to apply to. And secondly, you should reflect on yourself. And I'm sure you've heard this time and time over and over again, but you need to consider who you are and what your own goals are. You've definitely heard of, oh, what are your interests? What are your passions? What do you want to do when you grow up? But to go beyond that, you must ask yourself some more pertinent questions like, what are your academic strengths and weaknesses? Do you prefer structured, career-targeted programs like engineering or nursing, or flexible exploratory ones like in the arts and science, the general sciences? Do you thrive in large classes or small cohorts? Are you someone who wants to live in a big city, or would you feel more comfortable in a smaller, quieter environment? And third, you must compare these programs thoughtfully, and there's many factors. Oh yes, this so the plan is that we'll publish this webinar. We're recording it currently, along with the slides, along with our notes doc on our website, of which we'll get into a bit later on. So the factors that you should consider when comparing programs is geographic location, like I said, the urban versus suburban versus rural. There's city schools like UFT, which may offer more networking, some research and co-op opportunities, as well as rural campuses, which may have tighter knit communities if you value that more. Commute versus residence, consider if you want or can afford to live away from home. And some students, they may save costs by commuting to a local university, for example, like U Ottawa, which is in Ottawa. Climate and accessibility, think about the weather, transportation, proximity to family and support systems. Second big topic is the curriculum structure and academic rigor of the specific programs. So consider the required and elective courses. Some programs are rigid, like engineering, whereas others allow for more exploration, like arts and science programs, which gives you more electives or less required courses. The class size and teaching style. Are you okay with large lectures, or do you prefer discussion-based classes? The pace and difficulty. Some programs are very academically challenging, even after you've gone into them, like Waterloo CS, engineering, and UFT life science. So research the course loads and grading trends before you simply accept an offer. You must also consider the school culture and student life, campus vibe, support services, and what extracurriculars are available, as well as the access to opportunities. And D, the career outcomes and networking. This is probably what you're all focusing the most on. Regarding graduate school acceptance, certain programs are known for producing competitive grad school applications, such as McMaster Health Science, which is known to be the pre-med program in Canada. So if you get into this, you got a pretty good shot to go into med school if that's what you want to do. There's also many schools with industry links like co-op programs and career mentorship like Western Ivy, Waterloo Co-op that provide hands-on experience. And the last thing you should consider, this is likely the most important topic, is the admission competitiveness. So you should consider the minimum and median cutoff averages. Some programs, they post the specific data regarding their admission statistics online. Like I know for Waterloo Engineering, there's a whole graph regarding the probabilities. Competitive programs may require low 90s or more, especially with supplemental applications. Um, and that leads us to the supplementary requirements. There's essays, interviews, portfolios, or online assessments that may be required. So keep that in mind. And finally, consider the offer rate and application volume. This deals with the percentage of acceptances and enrollment.
So, at this point, I know that many of you may be thinking and, considering to yourself about the pros and the cons and all kinds of things about some of the more competitive programs in Ontario. And one of the big, things to know is that extracurriculars oftentimes play a major role in these competitive admissions, in supplemental applications and various other things. Um, Now, why are extracurriculars valuable? Well, they paint a picture of you and show who you are beyond just grades, especially in Ontario, where grades are perhaps less standardized and we lack standardized exams. Extracurriculars are oftentimes one of the only things that universities have to compare you to other similar applicants when they have a very limited number of seats. They can demonstrate personality traits like long-term growth, commitment to some kind of passion project that shows initiative or dedication, and can illustrate character traits like responsibility and leadership, which are super duper important for a variety of programs. Oftentimes, they also show that you've acquired a variety of skills in high school, those notably being things like communication, collaboration, time management, problem solving, resilience, and more. And they enable uh, people to apply to the programs with a uh, richer application experience. Okay, now. There are a variety of ways that each university with each competitive program handles their supplemental or their extracurricular submission system. And when you apply to a specific program because, well, you are interested in that program, you should have a very good knowledge of how they handle their extracurriculars and their supplementals before starting to do them so that you can approach them with readiness and confidence. Here are a few examples of the different types of ways that some universities will handle extracurriculars and how they evaluate them. Some universities will directly review your extracurriculars. For example, Rotman Commerce, IVAO, Waterloo, and Laurier. They will directly look at your extracurriculars and will place a value on the applicant based on their extracurriculars. I know specifically for Waterloo, they actually have an adjustment factor between 1 and 5 for your admission information form that they quite literally just add onto your grade. So they might add 5% for an excellent applicant on their grade based on their extracurriculars. Some universities have a more indirect way of considering your extracurriculars, in which their evaluation process of each applicant does not directly consider extracurriculars. However, they can be valuable for character building and demonstrating a variety of traits like growth and personality that may be applicable to their program. Um, Now, in terms of presenting your extracurriculars in applications, there is a model that is very common that we use. Sorry, can we change slides?
Yes.
Called the CAR or the STAR method. Now, this is a method to evaluate your own extracurriculars before you start supplemental evaluations, as this takes into context and into account the things that universities actually consider in your extracurriculars. So the process stands for context, action, and result. And the reason why you have to emphasize these things and you have to ask yourselves, in what context did I do my extracurricular? What did I actually accomplish? And what was the outcome of this extracurricular that I did? It's so that universities can see how you grew, how you learned, how it impacted people and your own perspective. And most importantly, is your extracurriculars' general impact on your community, your person, your intelligence, your personality. They consider more than anything the overall impact of your extracurriculars. So sometimes piling on extracurriculars with low impact that don't show growth or don't show community or commitment may not impress people, may even hurt your chances, dare I say, to apply to certain programs. So you should really be specific about which extracurriculars you want to highlight when you apply to different universities. In terms of the specific ways to prepare for specific application types, video interviews are often a point that people feel a lot of fear about. I mean, it's pretty scary getting in front of a camera and answering questions uh, without any time to think or prepare beforehand. Um, and so we believe that a good way to approach this is to prepare a brief synopsis or a brief list of different stories, extracurriculars, moments of leadership and heroism that you've experienced in your life beforehand. So write them down on a Google document or a spreadsheet. Um, and apply those differently depending on the question that you receive to whatever video interview you have, so that you have a list of 5 or 6 things perhaps that you can refer back to depending on the type of question that you get. Of course, being clear, punctual, and confident is one of the most important parts of video interviews. Some programs out there care extremely much about the type of person you come off as, just like a job interview would. They care about your personality, how you would fit into their program, because the fact is, their program has so many applicants that are more than qualified to get in, and you need to impress them sometimes with just who you are. So make sure to be yourself, confident and clear. Now, in terms of practicing, oftentimes there are banks of questions that you can find on the internet or example interviews on the actual platform they use. Oftentimes it's a platform called Kira Talent. And those are often helpful. However, oftentimes they don't compare to the real thing or are somewhat outdated. Um, Yeah, I think that's about it for this, right? Uh, sorry. Supplementary applications can take a variety of forms, right? So as I mentioned earlier, there are written responses and essays. And these written responses take multiple forms. For applications like Western's Ivy Business Program or McMaster's Health Science Program, I believe, oftentimes you will get a prompt, a question to answer, and you will have multiple days or weeks or even months to prepare for this program or this essay before you submit it. These often require proofreading, editing, and multiple layers of review in order to really stand out and have a competitive edge when you're applying. Now, another form that essays might take, such as in the case of Queen's Health Science and a few others, is they will give you the prompt and they will give you maybe 10 minutes or so to write out an answer, around one paragraph, around 500 words long, which is often a stressing factor for people because, I mean, you're given a very strict time limit, and is also why earlier Peja mentioned something about um, typing fast and making sure that you can properly answer and write enough words in time for your time limit. Now, in terms of video responses or interviews, the word interview is actually slightly misleading because you are not talking, in a traditional sense to an actual human being in most of these interviews. Oftentimes, you will get a prompt. It is a question, just like with your essays, and it'll ask you about a situation in your life or something that a typical interviewer would ask, and they'll give you maybe 1 or 2 minutes to prepare, and then maybe 1 to 5 minutes to speak out your answer verbally. These are typically done on a platform we mentioned earlier called Kira Talent or through internal university portals. Um, in terms of activity summaries and resumes, they are often, in the form of like a submittable form, so similar to a Google form, as in the case of Western's Ivy, where you can list out one by one your extracurriculars, your awards, your experiences, and the other things that show your leadership. For these programs, sometimes you will require external references. That means you will have to put the contact information of people who were involved in certain extracurriculars down in order for them to have the ability to validate your extracurriculars. So if you're considering one of these programs, whether it's Western or I believe Waterloo, um, you should ahead of time in advance be contacting the people that you were involved with in your extracurriculars to try and, politely ask for their contact information to use as a reference. If you are considering creative programs, that is, oftentimes visual arts. I know there's an interesting one at U of T for medical drawing. Um, you may have to include a physical portfolio of work you've done, or essays, or performative, video or audio clips. Creative projects and having a diversified portfolio is super important in these cases. Now, there are a few programs in Canada, like Western University's engineering program, that require situational judgment tests or aptitude tests. I think the most common one is Casper in Canada. And these tests, these exams, they often have to do with the way you would react to different moral situations so that they can evaluate a candidate's moral strength and their some of their other non-academic qualities. Okay. In terms of personal experiences, Pedro, why don't you start? I need to take a drink of water.
Yeah, that's fair. So for my personal experiences regarding the whole application process, I suppose, I'll first talk about maybe a comparison between my sub apps for McMaster iBiomed and Queen's Health Science. So both of them, they use the Cura Talent portal, the thing we've been talking about, and both of them consisted of a written portion and a spoken response question. Now, the big difference that I felt between these two programs was that, well, the questions they asked were rather similar. They were like, oh, what was the time that you dealt with adversity and how did you overcome that? Maybe some teamwork questions. Those were the type of questions that they asked. But the big difference between the two was that Queen's Health Science, they had a much more layered approach in their question asking. For example, they would often expand on the questions like, what was the time that you experienced adversity? How did you overcome it? Give an example of what you could have done to improve it, perhaps. Like these types of multi-layered, multi-part questions. And they were a bit stressful for me, at least, especially the type response, because my typing speed wasn't that great at the time. But yeah. Um, but I feel that while you're doing these types of interview or live responses, that they become less stressful as you get into it. Like you may prepare for days and days and days for the interview. You may be extremely stressed right before doing it. But I found at least that I became a bit more relaxed when I actually got to doing the interview, which can be reassuring for a few people. Yeah.
In terms of my experience, of course, I'm heading to a program that required a supplementary application, Queen's Commerce, and just a note, I was admitted within the very first round. I was one of the first admits to the program. That's not to say that getting admitted later it means you're a worse candidate. Just something to mention. And I was in a situation that perhaps some of you are feeling right now, which is that perhaps you feel inferior or you feel like your extracurriculars are somewhat lackluster in comparison to some of your, high-performing peers. Uh, I felt that I didn't have any business extracurriculars. I never went to DECA. I didn't do any debate or law. I had none of these humanities-based extracurriculars when I applied to this business only program where all the kids who get in are like startup founders and they have $100,000 stock portfolio. I was just a lonely applicant, right? And something I found out is that when doing supplemental applications, of course, having more extracurriculars and impressive and impactful extracurriculars is certainly a massive plus. However, it is not a requirement. And I have gotten into many competitive engineering and business programs without these insane, high-end extracurriculars that, of course, are nice to have. Um, just by, selling my personality, selling myself. This is one of the big things that universities look for is the potential in someone's personality. And the way I did this for Queen's Commerce specifically was I found something that made me confident during my interviews, and I found a subject to write about on my written component that was really, impactful in a personal sense and showed personal growth. So I was speaking about, I believe, an opportunity that I was presented with. Um, in my life, and that I unfortunately did not take that opportunity. And I reflected during my essay on perhaps how I could have done things differently to pursue opportunities to be better, to succeed, and to not be afraid of new things. And by showing that, I developed a very powerful, I think, character that the universities could use to look past my lack of extracurriculars per se. Um, and now, in terms of finding confidence for the interview, I am not an interview person. I do not do well on interviews. However, I found something that may seem funny to you, uh, which is that during my Queen's Commerce interview and my all my Queen's interviews, for that sake, I wore an old Queen's hoodie, and I had a Queen's mug, and I had I think a Queen's fidget spinner sitting on my desk in front of me within view of the camera. And that part just seemed really funny to me. So, if there is something that can maybe lighten your mood and remove some of the stress during your interview, so that you come off as more confident and more of a personable and extroverted person, perhaps it is worth looking into. But it all goes to say that extracurriculars are not the end of the world, and every year these super competitive programs that seem impossible to get into, accept some of the most random people out there based on factors like personality. So it's never the end, and it's never too late, and you know, you could always make a comeback.
So here are just some frequently asked questions that we would like to answer, first of all. So the first question is, what happens if I don't get into my top choice? Well, in that case, it's definitely not the end of the world, you know. That's why you apply to multiple programs. That's why you apply to some target schools that you should be relatively happy to go to, right? You research deeply into them. And these top choices are just that. They're top choices. They're rare to get in. So don't expect to get in. Don't take it for granted. The second question is, can I apply to multiple programs at one university? And yes, we mentioned this earlier. You can apply to 3 for most, but there are restrictions, like for your UFT engineering. What should I do after submitting my OUAC application? So after you submit, you will generally get a confirmation email from the organization say, hey, you submitted it. Um, and if you apply to any programs with supplementary applications, you should be aware of how to access these. Maybe they'll send you an email with a link to Cura Talent or something. Maybe they'll send you another portal but that you must access to submit it. So you should really pay attention to these things as they should not be expected to remind you, but most of the times they do. Um, Number 4, what if I take summer/night school or private school courses? So this kind of goes with the next question. Will taking a course in summer school or private school hurt my chances? Um, Generally, no. These courses are known to be relatively easier to improve your grades if you're looking for that. Oh, but for some more competitive programs, like for Waterloo, they might um, look a bit down on this decision if you don't have a full course load in regular day school, because they are just that much easier, right? Number 6, do I need a reference letter? So, no, of every Ontario university or program, as I'm aware of, you don't need a formal reference letter. Like they type it out and they send it to the university. Some programs may require verifiers in that sense for activities that you may have done, like for UFT. But these reference letters are really reserved for scholarships, or I know US schools, they require quite a few reference letters. Um, but for just programs, you don't need any. Should I take an extra course, e.g. a board course, to boost my average? Now, if it's just a regular day school course, I'd say why not? Go for it. Um, if you're searching for that extra GPA boost, I don't see why you shouldn't take an extra course. I know that I did not take any bird courses because I tried to keep my options a bit open for programs that I could apply to. Um, and it turned out okay, but I say go for it if you really want to. And the last, probably most important question that you all are waiting for. Can I get into this program with this grades and these extracurriculars? Now, there's really no way to say if you can get in, but there should be some indicators that can help you. Like if you're applying for a relatively easy program, like say a lot of people with 75 averages, they get in. If you have a 90% average, I don't see any fathomable way that you don't get in, right? But for the programs that have like 3%, 5% acceptance rates, those get a bit hard to say. And honestly, luck does play a bit of a factor in it as well. So don't get bummed out too much, even if you cure cancer and you don't get into Mac Health Sci. Um, you should probably get it, but don't get bummed out too much. And yeah, so regarding some upcoming information, so on our website, um, we will post that a bit later. If you could post it now, Jeffrey, that would be good as
I
well.
will, yeah.
Yeah. So on our website, there will be a bit of an information hub regarding these OUAC applications, as well as the Common App application process for the US universities, as well as for McGill, UBC, etc. We'll compile some resources. We'll write some articles that help you to explore this process. There will also be some information regarding academic skill development. So how to become a better student, how to manage your time better. This is all based off of our anecdotal experience. We'll also link some articles regarding further, more detailed personal experience on specific supplemental applications, and we'll likely compile it all in a link tree in the future. And like one of the questions asked earlier, this slideshow, our plan or information on a doc, as well as the recording of the seminar, they will all be posted on our website and likely on a YouTube channel that we'll create soon for open, free future reference for whenever you want to see it, reference it in the future. And another big point is that for our organization, we're currently, seeing the dawn of the new academic year. We're currently accepting some mentee and mentor applications, may it be for university application help, for us to look over your Supp apps, your essays, or just for, daily course preparation to help you do better in, say, your math courses, for example, your STEM courses mainly. So we do have an application form for that. Um, if you could link that, Jeffrey, that'd be good.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So this form is for both mentee and mentor applications, and there will be it's rather competitive. I'll just say that off the bat because we're not trying to accept too many students to maintain the quality as much as we can. And yeah, so keep your eyes out on our website, which is posted in the chat. Keep your eyes out on our application form, which is also in the chat. And yeah, thank you all for listening. Have a good rest of your summer and don't forget about your volunteer hours, please.